What's up, guys? Now, first and foremost, I want to apologize just in case this video is a little bit out of focus. I haven't quite done this setup yet before, so this is my first time doing this setup. So if the audio quality is not perfect and if I'm not 100% inside the frame, I apologize for that, but I am working on this new setup. And second of all, I haven't done a car video when I'm just inside the car driving in a really long time. So I thought this would be a nice change of pace so I could do something a little bit different. But what I want to talk about today is how fast is the Jeep Wrangler, or really how slow is it? Now, there's no mistaking, there's no, real thing about it. Yeah, the Jeep Wrangler is not a fast vehicle, especially the older generation, the 2007 through 2011, had the 3.8 V6, and I think it produced either 205 or 210 horsepower, somewhere in that range. So I'm talking about this generation Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, or the normal Jeep Wrangler. Now, first and foremost, I want to say I did do a video talking about, or I did do a video just doing the 0 to 60 in this thing, and let's just say it was less than impressive. But the real question is, how much power do you really need for the street? For myself, when I first purchased this vehicle, I was coming from a V6 Camaro, so I was used to, some decent power inside a car, even though that wasn't the fastest thing out there in the world. The 0 to 60 times were around 6 seconds, and, you can get a little bit better, a little bit worse than that, but it was decent power. So my biggest concern was coming from that and then jumping into this. Will I feel like this is such a dog? Will this thing be so slow? Will I be just bored out of my mind? Will I not be able to drive in normal traffic? But I am happy to report that no, I'm not bored out of my mind. Yes, it is slower. But this, you don't buy a Jeep Wrangler for its speed. You don't buy this type of vehicle for its speed. It's straight line performance. You drive it for the whole aspects of it, for the off-road ability, the capability, and just all those other aspects. That's what you buy this vehicle for. I will say, when I'm driving in the city or just driving around town or anything like that, I've learned to drive much more of a, it's kind of strange. I kind of drive this vehicle almost as if it's obviously like a lower horsepower type of sports car if you're trying to attack a hill or something like that. You drive it much more momentum based. And what I mean by that is that once the vehicle gets up and going, obviously, just like any other vehicle, you want to keep it going. So, if you're in traffic or if you're anything or just driving around town, I do find myself to be driving it much more momentum based, where, changing lanes to keep the momentum going so I don't have to stop and start. Now, I'm not saying that the thing, you can't stop and start and just drive normally with traffic, because that's clearly not the case. This is a modern vehicle. All modern vehicles, can drive and get up to speed and everything else. But when it comes down to being able to drive and not being, passed and everything like that, you do have to drive this vehicle much more momentum based, where you kind of have to just get over in different lanes and then kind of just keep yourself going once you start driving. So that's one of the biggest things that I've found myself doing in comparison to other vehicles. I've been finding myself just kind of switching lanes a little bit more. Maybe not necessarily driving aggressively, because no, I don't drive aggressively, but I do drive, I guess the only way to describe it is momentum based. I do want to mention there's a really nice Jeep Wrangler right next to me. It's a 2-door, really nice. I like his setup. You guys can't see, but it's a nice setup. So far, the main big difference that I find myself doing is driving this car much more momentum based. But another thing though, which some people they're not going to be used to just jumping into this car, is you have to put a little bit more throttle input to get this bad boy up and running. So, for example, right now, this car's behind me. You have to kind of get into it a little bit. Maybe not too much, but there is definitely more throttle input that you do need to put inside. You have to just put more throttle input to get this thing going. If you're inside like a normal 2-door car or like a normal sedan, how you would normally accelerate, how much throttle input you will put. Just imagine probably about 20% more that you have to put into this just to get up to the speed. It's not like I'm flooring it every single second, but you just have to put a little bit more throttle input. So honestly, I will say this car, for this, only having about 200 something horsepower, it's really not that bad as long as you're not going out there and trying to drag race people. It really isn't that bad. Then another thing is on the highway or on the interstate. When you're just normally merging onto traffic, like I said before, you have to put a little bit more throttle input than what you're normally used to. Most people, when they drive, most people, they're not out there trying to beat someone racing, so you don't really have to worry about beating out a whole bunch of people. I will say, if it's, cars coming up fast, I will just let them pass before I try to merge into the lane. But for most people, you can get into traffic, you can keep up with traffic. It's not like you're going to be that much slower. I mean, most cars honestly don't even have that much horsepower. You're driving around, most of the time you're driving around with a whole bunch of Priuses and stuff like that, so you really don't have that much stuff to worry about when it comes down to keeping up with other cars. So, I mean, I know a lot of people, they're always saying, oh, the Jeep Wrangler, it's slow, but really, it really isn't. I mean, honestly, it really isn't. This car, I would not hesitate to say that this car can keep up with any other car, barring none, that it's not a sports car or something like that, or a performance car, but this car can keep up with just about anything on the road. Depending on how much throttle input someone else puts in when they're trying to accelerate, you can keep up, because if you just put a little bit more throttle input, you're perfectly fine. Like, this car is perfectly fine as far as speed and as far as keeping up with other cars on the road. It's capable of doing anything. I do want to mention that a lot of people, that's one of their complaints when they talk about the Jeep Wranglers, that it's slow, but really, if you're buying a Jeep Wrangler, you're buying it not for its top speed. You're not going to be driving a Jeep Wrangler when it comes down to speed. And, once you kind of just understand that, it really isn't a problem at all. I mean, honestly, this isn't a problem at all. I would say that this car is faster than probably, yeah, actually, that's a really interesting thing. I really want to know, is this car faster than my fiance's Jeep Compass? Because I will say, when I get into that, after driving this thing, that feels a lot more torquier, but I know that only has like 150 horsepower, but it's a lot lighter. And actually, that would be an interesting thing. I want to know if this is faster than that. I don't know. I would assume that the Compass is going to be faster than this. This is a 2010 Unlimited. But I don't know, actually. It's an interesting thing. But anyways, all I was saying is, though, it really isn't a problem at all. The main things that I do is I drive somewhat momentum based, but I guess that's my driving style, that I tend to drive, a little bit more momentum based, just not necessarily weaving in and out of traffic, just being a jerk, but if there's a car coming and it's slowing down, obviously just get over and keep going, just stuff like that. But so just driving a little bit more momentum based, have a little bit more throttle input, and just using your good driving skills of, hey, there's cars coming up behind you super fast, let them go, and then merge over. Or if you see cars and you can merge in, just use more throttle input. So it really isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, so hopefully this video was entertaining, and hopefully this video was useful for you guys. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, give it a like. Check out some of the other videos that I've done. I've done a lot of other videos on this Jeep Wrangler, and I plan on doing a whole bunch more. So if you like these type of videos, check out my channel. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you. Bye.